All right, global greetings, people. Welcome to another edition of the Topics, an exclusive edition of the Topics this evening here on Real Entertainment Network. Um, we are going through the month. We are at the end of this month that is known to many as Alkebulan History Month. Some say Black History Month. Um, and as a part of celebrating Alkebulan Stories Month, we here on the platform, Real Entertainment platform, would have opted to make our contribution as well in terms of celebrating and acknowledging Alkebulan Stories Month. Now, many, as I make use of that terminology, I find that I do get some challenges where that is concerned, but we're going to get a little bit further into that discussion as tonight we have also with us on the platform for this edition, we have Ras Judah I out of Sugar City St. Kitts, who was a former educator at the Basti High School as a technical drawing instructor. He is an architect by trade, Rastafari, herbalist, African conscious brethren, Ras Judah I, who's going to be on the platform with us this evening for this discussion and for this exclusive edition of the topics. So we want to say good evening to all of those who are logged on via Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. We want to welcome one and all to this edition of DeTopiks, Alkebulan Stories Month, special edition. So Ras Judah, with that, we're going to introduce Ras Judah to the platform, and then we get into the discussions. I did give a slight little introduction, but you could, when you come in, Ras Judah, you could let the folks know a little bit about yourself, and then we get rolling into some of the things that we're going to talk about. So let's welcome Ras Judah. Greetings, my brethren of respect. Welcome to the platform. I don't know if you're getting a little delay on your side, but yeah, we here with Ras Judah until maybe he is hearing us. We tonight will be looking into, like I said, Alkebulan History Month. Judah, you hearing me? Yeah, it seems as if Judah is having a little bit of technical difficulty. If you're hearing me, just let me know you're hearing me, Ras Judah.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, now
Okay.
you hear me?
Yeah, well, just introduce yourself to the public, and then we could get rolling, you know?
Yes, Ras Judah Hadu, you know, deal with the promotion of finite consciousness as African people, you know, a retired teacher, high school teacher. Basically, that's it.
All right. So tonight, like I said in the introduction, we're going to delve a bit into Alkebulan Stories Month. I opt to use the term Alkebulan because it's one of the more ancient names, and for the fact that we as we move forward in terms of celebrating our African consciousness, there's a lot that we really need to unpack. And one such is to sometimes help to inform the masses that, for example, Africa was a name that was given by the Europeans. That's after the Belgium Conference. Prior to the Belgium Conference, that continent was never called Africa. So it is almost like in our cases, let's say St. Kitts and Nevis, prior to Columbus and those people coming these parts, the indigenous people called our lands Oli and Layamiga, and those are the original names for St. Kitts and Nevis. And so if one opt to use the original names, like many of us do, and I want to think that many of us should also make use of, I also seek to introduce to the masses the term Alkebulan as a part of the resistance to utilizing, some of the European terminologies. Now, as Judah, one of the things I recognize within St. Kitts and Nevis, Africa, Alkebulan History Month, Alkebulan Stories Month is not necessarily given the kind of recognition that it should be given. I don't know, like, why do you think that as a people we don't pay as much attention to Alkebulan Stories Month? We do sometimes in the more recent years would see a bit of adoption coming from the schools per se. You would see in more recent times some of the primary schools and secondary, well, I'm not sure about the secondary schools now, but I know for sure in the primary schools they do have like a African dress up day where, the children would put on the African dress and so on. And I must commend them for that. That actually is celebrated throughout the population. Some companies and some persons would acknowledge an African dress up day or something like that, some day that they would. But I I am of the view that I am of the view that we don't do as much to acknowledge our African consciousness on a whole, and especially even since a month is allocated for that. What are your thoughts in regards to that, and why you think that our people don't pay much attention to Alkebulan Stories Month?
Yeah, man. Well, greetings again, in the name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Yeri Selassie the First, Jah Rastafari. No, Yahsonn, as a matter of fact, the consciousness, the African programs that you see in the school is basically where we started when we was teaching, right? Because if you remember when we were teaching, we used to run the African history program. We introduced it in all the school them. And we did that for a couple of years well, and it's coming out of that program. You have the African Just Day and all of these things in primary school, So it's basically come off from the foundation what we said, right? But sadly, we don't really see much addition to the works that we began back then in them times here. No, it's like the appetite for it in real dear. And you could understand why, right? Because we live in a society that demands a certain kind of life. So then all the energy is just to meet the demands of the life. For example, I mean, the question of your daily bread, right? Most people is concerned with that, right? As far as they're concerned, knowing the African history is really a priority in regards of the daily bread, you see? So all of these things to me is what really like create the lack of interest. You know what I mean? The survival, because it's a survival. You know what I mean? We ain't really free because we still thinking it's somebody supposed to come free us. And freedom is a thing that you got to do for yourself. You know, like Bob Marley said, none but yourself can free your mind. Nobody can free your mind free. You know? So is we, you know, got to see the need here, you know? And you know, some of the time it's sad, but it's true, you know, it's only when you're back against the wall, you know yourself and know where you know what I mean? But as long as everything look fine and then you know really got time for no African story. You know, you want to advance yourself technologically and financially and cause these things what I sell you is going to get you somewhere in life. I mean, where in life I really don't know. You know what I mean? But these are things that we're being taught. You know, and these are things that we gravitate to, you know. So until we get over them illusion, you know what I mean? When, you know, the African story gonna be on the background. I don't know if you answer it.
Yeah, well, it is sad that you know we are going through 2025 and we would have had you know the likes of like Marcus Garvey. We would have had you know so many prominent brothers and sisters coming out of even the Caribbean per se. So sometimes I am baffled a little bit because you know in a lot of cases when it comes to people seeking to have something to look up to, it's usually some persons to look up to. It's usually sometimes people of European standards are somewhere out there. But in our case, in looking at Alkebulan Stories Month, a lot of the contributions that were made by prominent Alkebulans throughout the world, many of them, their roots are linked to the Caribbean. I mean, let's look at, for example, I just mentioned Marcus Garvey. You talk about Malcolm X. Malcolm X, his mother was from Grenada. You have even today living Louis Farrakhan, prominent brother. His father, I think, is from Jamaica, and his mother is connected to St. Kitts and Nevis. I mean, you know, we talk about Henry Christophe, and even as we talk about Marcus Garvey again, there's another story out there that actually Marcus Garvey was born on St. Kitts, right? And so there's so many things that we in the Caribbean can hold on to and should be cherishing and should be seizing these opportunities and moments to highlight. But yet, we are not doing it. And even based on what you just said, it sounds as if it's like so grim and so hard for us to even begin to see the need to continue to do something like this so that some of these stories and legacies can pass on to our future generation. Also, Judah, at the same time, do you think that the fact that we're at this stage in our thinking where you're saying, like, we're in 2025, and we are saying that people have lost that interest in knowing about themselves and their roots, right?
Yeah.
But don't you think that, especially when we look at a lot of what's going on throughout the region in terms of the crime and violence and some of these things, which is perpetuated against one another. Don't you think that if for some reason we were doing a lot more of this, where it seeks to help to evoke that level of consciousness within our people that, hey, this is what we should have been doing, this is what those who came before us did, this is the kind of mission that we were on in terms of bringing our people together, that love and unification quest, and the need for us to see each other as brothers and sisters, and the need for us to unite. Don't you think that would help in terms of even the consciousness to help brothers and sisters see the need to not be taking up a gun to shoot down another brother? Because of that consciousness that you have now, you'll be seeing your brother as a king and your young son as a young prince, versus seeing him as the N-word, a dog. You know, I mean, what's your thoughts in terms of that? Because I am thinking from my vantage point that it is some of these reasons why we need to do more of this.
Well, you see, no, crime and violence, you know, to me that is a result of the denying of the Almighty, you know, because it's only Jah can fix them things, you know, and let me talk in a more specific sense. Man is not just physical, man is physical and spiritual, you know. But we live in a society that don't even educate us about ourselves, right? And the emphasis is just on acquiring vanity, you know. This is the progress in life, the vanity, right? So there's a lot of things leave out the mix. There's a lot of things out. You know? I mean, you teach, and you know what teaching is. It's human development, you know. Because you have to do with modification of behaviors and all these things, right? But God is in every man, so a man don't really need a next man to come show him nothing. If he got that connection with the God within himself, you understand? And that is the aim we're supposed to be aiming for, right? Becoming one with the God within himself, and we have no education concerning that. So how we educate is about how to go look a job. That's all. Go look a job and get the biggest money, right? So we live all over the illusion, you know. Got nothing, no idea about that. Now we see the African story, right? Is the thing who would bring us to this reality. See? Knowing our roots, because our people are the people who came from God, you know, who came from the Almighty. You see? And there's a lot of ways you can prove it. A lot of ways you can prove it, you know. So we are special people, because God never make a white man, He never make a Chinese man, He never make an Indian, you know. The slick here people them, the people them with the straight here, them they born from we, right? Because if you check your eyebrows and your eyelids, you check the kind of hair, right? The kind of hair is straight here. Come out your eyebrows and your eyelids, right? And when you look into your hair on your beards or your hair on your head and other parts of your body, it's woolly hair. Now written in the Bible that the ancients said the hair is like pure wool. Now we is the only people on the earth that here like what? Right? So you realize the African people, right, was the first people on the earth are really God people. Because God got woolly and we got woolly here, no other race got woolly here. Right? So and it's also proven scientifically that we produce the other races of people, you know, and but none of the other races can produce the African man, the woolly head man. And the African man is the woolly head man, not really the black skin man, because Indian skin black too. Right? So it's the woolly head people, it's the African people, God people, right? Yeah. So our history, our story now would reveal all of these reality to us, you know, would reveal all of these things to us. But since we don't pay no attention to that, we hold to a religion, right? And the religion is a part of the whole illusion and make you believe that you live some kind of life, you know. But you don't know your roots, you don't know nothing concerning what you're supposed to be doing, you know. So we way off course, we way out of line, you know, be in a terrible state, you know. But we got hope, and the hope is Rastafari, and I watch the people, right? Like we don't value the things them, right? We don't value what come from us. And I think that they probably maybe the product of the colonialism, you know. Yeah. Rastafari is the connection, right? Yeah, Rastafari is how we as African people, you know. Maybe got another way, but following prophecies, you show you clear out, you know, is a reconnection to the Almighty, you know, the source, you know, how we used to be in the beginning, you know what I mean? So, but until these things got meaning to us, you know, because they ain't really got a meaning to us right now, you know. Right now, it's like, we just want to be the next Bill Gates, Rockefeller, and money guys.
Okay. Now
But you
I
think,
hear that.
you see, I can share, eh?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Say something else.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I can't hear you guys.
Okay, seem as if my brethren is having a little delay on his side. I was
You think,
allowing you to go through. I was allowing you to go through and make your point, but it seems as if you had a little slight delay on your side. But if you could hear me now and you want to continue, and then I will. If not, then I will get into something else. Yeah. So just go ahead and say what you were saying.
well, I finish. I finish. I
Okay.
don't need to cut out before that.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was about to say now, though, right? Because you got into looking at the even the religious aspect. Now, how our society is structured, right? Um, even
Yes, sir.
even even from what is being taught in our school systems, um, we were given a religion, forced to accept the religion, and through that religion and religious system, we were given an education because historically, most of our schools started out as church schools, which were organized by the missionaries that came in. As a result, we would have gotten, in most cases, stories about our lives from the enslavement era up until now. Do you think that that also play a part as to why we don't have that level of consciousness that we should have? Because to some extent it was and is intentionally kind of kept away from us, because they know if we were or are supposed to be more informed and get more conscious, that it may cause some things that would not necessarily be beneficial to them.
When you say them, who you mean?
Those who would have designed the system for us not to benefit. Because remember, we're talking about a system that was designed. Remember, I started off by saying that they would have forced us to accept a religion, beaten into us in some cases, and it is from that religious set of indoctrination that we were given an education, because we were taught to read through the Bibles, and it's out that the missionaries, most of the schools started in St. Kitts and Nevis, the missionary school, whether it's the Methodist, the Moravian or whatever. But then the system that they started with give us an education from give us our stories from the enslavement era up until now, but nothing prior to that. So that's what I'm saying. I'm wondering if that is not, that intentionality is not part of why that level of consciousness is not within us, and we have been forced to kind of look down on it and don't even want to associate with it.
But that is the idea, you know what I mean? I remember, you know, they did everything out to us to even call yourself by your African name. You know what I mean? So it really forced us to forget ourselves as African people, and then would have made us into something totally new, you know what I mean? So the whole mission was to make we lose ourselves, and then they recreate us in their likeness and image. You know what I mean? But God make us, you know what I mean? God make us feel like a computer, you know? We could bypass the program and put in next time, you know? God make us, you know? And these things where we come with, they come from generation to generation, you know what I mean? It feel like something we just come, you know what I mean? We are like, we are our ancestors, you know what I mean? Because it's a bloodline, you know what I mean? The DNA, you know? So that's how we travel. You can't really, you could suppress it, but you can't erase it. You know what I mean? So we don't want the African man to freeze, but I can't stop it, because I'm gonna show you why I can't stop. Right? Everything got time and season, you know? Yeah. Everything got time and season, and it help you determine everything. Right? Sun, the moon, and the stars, them determine the plan and the earth. There's nothing man can do about that. So when we say African time come, right, and Babylon time done, is because what he haven't said is not that we really know, you know, but in the heavens, right? It's how the stars them position themselves and this thing, and that they really impact human life. You understand? So the African time come, and if you see what's going on in Africa, you would know that Africa time come, right? youth then waking up to understand what's going on, you know what I mean, in the world of politics and how everything was set to right? All of them super poor countries, all of them, you know what I mean, in Africa. Right? Now they come and they show you well, Europe and China got technology. And they show you about electrical car. They might tell you what the Tesla, how long the Tesla take to charge up? 2 days?
No, man, I think it's so long. I don't
They
think
might
it's so
show you
long.
in Burkina Faso, but they might show you in Burkina Faso, the man take electric car, right? We can charge up in a half an hour, right? But down in Zimbabwe now, a youth will drop out of high school, make a car in no charging and no refueling. Right? This car and it's a generator for your house. So it's like you can plug it up to your house and you can current for your house. Right? And what do you use? Radio frequency. You turn radio frequency. So you see the technology is? It's in Africa. It's in the Western world. You go to the West, you go to Africa, see what's going on, and they try to, which is what going on all the way, calling slavery. When you check Benjamin Bannock, Benjamin Bannock, the man who invented the clock, right? He's the one who work out the formula for splitting of the atom. But you don't use, everything you see going on in this Western world, make it look progressive, right? It's the African people do it, but somebody else accredited, even on the slave plantation. You know what I mean? All the machinery to develop. You look and you see,
But Judah,
the traffic
you
lights, yeah.
you made a point there earlier, right? And it triggered something in my thought process. You were saying something about weighing like computers so they can just like wipe off the programming because you're saying that something's embedded in our DNA. But while we say that, we still can't overlook the fact that they attempted to do that, because that's part of why also we are the way we are. Because, for example, look at it, we are now even using a foreigner's language to communicate. Our names were taken away, our spiritual practices were taken away. So it's almost everything that was wiped away, and that's one of the reasons why, even as I see a comment here, I see Alan Powell have a comment here saying, rather than saying black people, it must be black peoples that are recognized and would have to decide to come together. Because looking at it from a holistic point of view, right? As we look at all of our people throughout the diaspora. Now, one of the challenge that we face, and I was in a discussion sometime a couple of months back, and this was one of the things I highlighted because I recognized it, because it was a chat that included a lot of Africans in the diaspora, but Africans who were living in Africa and then left Africa and migrated to some other part, whether it's the US or Canada or whatever, right? And one of the things I was seeking to get across is the fact that we in these parts of the world, in the Caribbean especially, because of that legacy where, as we just pointed out, so much was sought to be wiped away from our foreparents. We, these generations who have come, we don't have what the Africans who are living in Africa have, in the sense that even though a lot of them were colonized, they were not taken out of their territory. So a lot of the other spiritual practices and other things and traditions and so on was still maintained. So even though there were other influences, whether it was political or religious or whatever it is, they were still able to say, because even in the discussion that I had with the people, they were saying that when they go back to Africa, they will still go back in the villages and meet up with their traditional spiritual people and so on, even though they might have now conformed to Christianity or, you know, Roman Catholicism or whatever else they might be associated with. We, however, in these parts of the world, it's like, as you talk about the DNA, you know certain things, you know like what you were taught was not necessarily for you. You know that there is something else because you probably would have been attached to something else, but you don't know what that something else is because you've never even really been exposed to it, to see it, because you were taken away from it totally and was given something totally different. So right now, we don't even know how to speak even one African language, one Alkebulan language. We can't speak, we don't really know much of any of our traditional spiritual customs, because even those that we know about, they try to make it feel as if it's bad. They tell us Obi and Voodoo and so it's bad things, right? And don't associate those things and so on. And all of it is because of some of the teachings and indoctrinations that would have been passed on as a part of helping to get us conformed and accepting that which was never designed for us. And so that we could, as I said, forget about, you know, all of these glorious people that you talk about and all of these things that we are able to do in Alkebulan today. As you said, high school dropout, have these kind of knowledge, have these kind of skills, have this kind of technology, but they want to make us still feel as if we don't know anything and we have to go to them to get whatever.
You see, it's a system, right? Created and put in place to make sure everything remains the same. This world in which we live, this modern world, soccer, start because it shows Columbus came in 1492, which means when Columbus
You're breaking up. You're going in and out, Rastaman. Yeah. So while he's getting reconnected, okay. I just want to say good night to the folks logged on the chat so far. We've got Carlisle Paris, that's Ijuma, and we've got Yvonne Jeffers, and we would have seen a comment there from Alan Powell. And to all the others who are logged in and logged on. Tonight, if you wish to be a part of the program, there's a WhatsApp number that you can link. It's only on WhatsApp. I'm going to probably post it in the chat, but it's 1-559-541-2758 if you want to call in and weigh in and give your 2 cents, but it's only WhatsApp. So it's 1-559-541-2758. If you want to be a part. But in the meantime, Ras Judah, if you're back and you can hear me, then you can continue with your meditation.
what question Levi saying?
Well, really, I was on
Yes,
oh, the question that the Virgin asked. Yeah, me guess internet giving us a little bit of hiccup, you know. But yeah, I mean,
hear me?
it's yeah, here, you know, yeah, it's kind of interesting, you know, that we went through through all that. You know, that struggle, and it was intentionally done to keep us, you know, from ourselves, in a sense, not knowing our own spiritual consciousness, not knowing our. So I was saying, I think I was talking about the fact that we who are in the Caribbean, a lot of our customs and traditions and so on we never got to experience it, because from our foreparents, they were taught English, they were taught, you know, Christianity. So we come out of that legacy. So you're here, but in your mind, like when we're growing up now, you feel and you sense that this what they are trying to program you with. It don't match with you. It doesn't, you know, coincide with you. But you don't know what to turn to because you have never experienced what the original thing was. So those who got left back in Africa, they are able to experience that, because even though they were influenced by the outside, a lot of what they had as customs and traditions was still maintained. And so that they, whether they're living in America or Canada or wherever they are, when they do go back to their village, they can go and still associate with the medicine man or the obia man or the voodoo man or the spiritual, whatever it is, even though they may still adhere to their Roman Catholicism or the Seventh-day Adventist or whatever new modern European religion or colonizer religion that they would have accepted. We don't have that. And so that's how far back we are. And that's why sometimes when we do come and talk these things, we get this kind of pushback, even from our own people, because many of them have been so brainwashed and taken so far removed from themselves that they don't even want to accept themselves. You see, like we're in St. Kitts, and a Chinese born in St. Kitts is still called a Chinese. When you see the Chinese child, you still say about that Chinese. But when you see a person who look like us, how come we can't identify with who we are? Why is it so much a problem for a person who look like you? And when you look at the ethnic map, the only set of people you could associate with is the African people. How we can see that? How we can accept that, even up to now?
By it in style, you know, I mean, we think they were in style, you know what I mean? We as a people, we just go to love it. I mean, in style, you know what? But in a serious side, in a serious thing, you know. But you see the system, you see this world we live in, this world we live in. They teach us about it in school, you know. We say, oh, it's people came to the new world. Right? And I tell you when and how the new world was built, you know. They acquired these lands out here, the western land, by displacing a lot of people. I think with a lot of people, culture and everything, you know. And then upstate Africa, ship out African people to come walk the land them out here, you know. So, and then now they propagate their story, how creation go, how life go, and they teach us nothing about our story or the world that was their existence when they come. Because Europe was poor, Africa was the learning center they were during the time. You know what I mean? So Africa basically was like the attraction, you know what I mean? The special attraction in the earth, you know. And to me, this whole creation of this new world was to reverse the whole thing and put Africa to the bottom. And the system can be regardless to see system set. So why would the system set against us? So hard. Because only we got Holy Spirit. You know what I mean? So we got something that they can get, can can take it from me, So it's like the only way that can is like create a system to just keep and make us feel like we are lesser people. You know what I mean? Why you gonna go all the way to make a people feel that are less? You gotta be them people got something, And why you gonna put yourself out the way for a lesser person? You know what I mean? To make a lesser person never lesser. You see? And when you really check it out, right? Remember, all the international sports, African people are banned from it. See? All when Olympics are in Africa, man going to be no team going to Olympics. In basketball, international level, no black man, Why them keeping all the black? Because anytime the African man reaching that, understand that in the black wash. See? Yeah, look at it. I remember, right? I used to watch a team named Celtics. Celtics was a team with all white man, Larry Bird and all. And I live to see where I can't see the white man. Yeah, these limits to make sure that we don't ever know who we are.
Yeah, seem as if my guest got frozen a bit
Come
again.
on, right? Yeah,
Okay, I'm hearing you again now. Yeah, so you're back again. Yeah, go ahead.
Jaja, the technology. Give thanks.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's an important topic still. So I give thanks for the patience and the listeners. That's how it is right now. Before you finish up that point, just want to say good evening to Ruthlin Hill, also logging in from Florida. So give thanks to one-on-ones who are logging in and joining in the Alkebulan discussion this evening. Because it's winding down to the end of this month that they give us to consider as Alkebulan Stories Month, and this is just our little contribution on the platform here in regards to Alkebulan Story Month. Why we are not celebrating it as much? What we can do to seek to change that kind of concept and that empower our people to really acknowledge the month, and not just the month, but acknowledge the contributions of our people, and even more so our local people on St. Kitts and Nevis and the contributions that they would have made. We need to do a lot more of that so that we could pass on that legacy to our children and grandchildren, and they themselves can grow up and start to feel more empowered when they look and realize that they would have had people who before them would have done a lot of great things. As I think about that to Judah, sometimes when you listen to even the local history of St. Kitts and Nevis, and you listen to some of the things that people would have done, or that things that would have been accomplished within St. Kitts and Nevis, within the time frame that they were done. And then you look at what's happening today and you really wonder, like, well, how these people could have been so successful and could have accomplished so much within those times and didn't even have some of the, whatever is technology or other things that we do have today. But even with all of that, it seems as if, like, even you look at this African consciousness. You talk about the times in them times when you had, like, Marcus Garvey and the Walter Rodneys and the, even the Bratcha and them, man, who within them times would have been pushing that energy, even down to lately in more recent times, like Elder Washi, I mean, But where is that revolutionary spirit? I mean, how after all that and these things that we have sort of like, you know, just accept the inclusion thing. Then, you know, like, okay man, you get a chance now, you all could vote now, you could do just, you know, so you all included now, you know, even like within Rastafari, even Rastafari to some extent seems to be lapsing in some cases too, because now it seems as if maybe Rasta is more socially acceptable and so on. It seems like some might feel like there's not that need anymore to struggle and push like they used to back in the 70s and 80s. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Well, you know, if you accept the deception, you know, I mean, you become no Rastafari is still there. People would get caught up within the system. The plantation stuff. Like I tell you, the system set to make the same. You know, look, this still in the plantation, we still got the slave driver and all that. Even though they tell us we don't got emancipation. Emancipation, nobody can, nobody. Nobody is supposed to go on about. So keeping you have a government where the government maintain the same plantation idea where you go to the monarchy and the monarchy tell them what to do with them. You're done there. You know what I mean? And then all we do is just vote for them, the overlords for the slave, them, the oversight them for the slave, them, vote for them, and they just scout the monarchy. Desire, gender, and we don't feel no way as long as we're doing our work and we get paid. Okay? Work and we get paid and we still get in line. So we gotta read towards the Almighty. Yeah.
But
Rastafari. Yeah, no, hey,
Jordan,
hey.
based on what
Yes,
you
sir.
just said, right? And this is why I guess these kind of conversations are critical, because isn't it then maybe intentional why the neglect to even seek to highlight the level of consciousness, whether it's Alkebulan History Month, whether it's Alkebulan Liberation Day, whether it's the commemoration of the Buckley's Uprising, anything that has to do with awakening the consciousness of the people would be deemed as opposing the system which they are seeking to maintain. Because you just talk about we're coming from a system, and you're saying that the politicians are seeking to maintain or to continue that plantation system, which was never designed for us, and that is part of the reality. And so they could only be effective and continue to be effective with that system if they continue to keep the people ignorant and keep the people from not thinking and getting into this level of consciousness. So then you really have to wonder if it is not part of the intention why, for example, some of these things that we are talking about is only generally spearheaded by Rastafari community. Because, for example, if it wasn't for Rastafari, there would not have been no Buckley's Uprising commemoration for all of these years. If it wasn't for Rastafari, there wouldn't be any African Alkebulan liberation, the celebrations annually. If it wasn't for Rastafari, as you spoke about earlier, the contributions that was made by the Rastafari community in regards to maintaining the Alkebulan Stories Month program throughout the school systems, out of which you mentioned that the adaptation of Alkebulan History Day celebration with the dress up and so on and so forth came out as a result. But these things were only as a result of the influence of Rastafari, the same people who were scorned, were and are scorned and ridiculed and hated to the point where you were treated as less than a human because there was a dread act, right? Where you could have meet a Rasta man on sight and just shoot him, and he counted as if like you shoot a dog or cattle, right? So, yeah. Go ahead.
That's a
so it is out of that. It is out of that. It is out of that we are coming from, and it is these kinds of discussions that is necessary for the masses to truly understand that the fight that was put up against Rastafari wasn't so much in regards to Rastafari being bad or evil or criminals and so on, as they would have wanted to make it seem. It was because Rastafari was pushing this message and this consciousness and saying, look, we ain't accept your king. Our king is the king of Ethiopia. And we are following the traditions and customs of our king and Alkebulan, and we ain't in nothing with you and your queendom. And it was that they were afraid of. The fact that here is this brother, especially brother, Leonard Howell in Jamaica, buy up this amount of land, set up this community that is not dependent on the system in any way, shape, or form. So that was like the first model community where they had their own business, they're doing their own thing, no dependence on them, and they were afraid of that. And so they did whatever it is that they could have done to discredit, mash up, dismantle Rastafari, and they were seeking to, just like with the Taino people, they was hoping that they could have just wipe out Rastafari. And not because of cannabis as they try to make it appear, because they use cannabis and the fact that Rastafari associated with cannabis as a scapegoat, because they criminalize it, and then that was the only thing that Rastafari was being locked up for. And when you get locked up, then you were considered a criminal. So they criminalized us and used that as an effort to continue to eradicate us. Not so much because of no cannabis, but because we were preaching and teaching a message that went against the system that they were trying to protect and uphold. And we were telling the people not to listen to that system and not to agree to that system and not to deal with that system. And so that is part. And so then you find, as we continue now, it's only the Rastafari mainly who keep pushing these agenda. And so they use that thing that they already have against Rasta to kind of help the rest of the society. They say, man, not study with them people there. They must study with them all back to Alkebulan story and all that. And that is part of what was done. So that is part of why still I think that we have this kind of negative vibes when it comes to acknowledging and celebrating our own thing. And so part of it is being kept up by people who look like me and you. And that's why people need to understand that the system that is being maintained by these people who we elect is a system that was never designed for us.
Man, that's your own in my man. Watch, you know, remember the water bill, right? Remember we got buy earth, you know, we got buy land. You know this. We have to buy land and we have to buy water. No, you cannot live without water. And you cannot live in this. And you can't live in it, you have to live on the land. So what am I tell you, in this system, if you don't have money, you are dead. I must go move and live with it. You know? I mean, you can only sell what you make, you know. You can't go sell something for anyone. Nobody make the earth, you know. The earth is for earth creatures. You got the sea for the sea creatures, you know what I mean? But even the bird them live up in the air. They have to live on the earth, you know what I mean? Because them earth creatures. See? So me I say that the system that governing us, we continue to govern ourselves with because for me, it's we keeping it, you know, because we got to free ourselves, you know. We must decide how we live. Remember, we's people, you know. You know what I mean? We's people. Just it's just not European or the rich man's people. See? Even the little baby, somebody, you know what I mean? We are people, and as long as in them human being, nobody above nobody. See? The way you got human rights, nobody gonna send nobody else, right? So this is reality what we have to face. This is the life, you know what I mean? We just playing different roles in the society, but in truth and in fact, right? We heading to something what? You know what I mean? We just can't follow something because you should follow it. You know what I mean? Because you own the most popular, that mean nothing. See? That you can own the whole world and just do it. Right? So if you don't know yourself, remember to know yourself is the ultimate thing. You know? To know oneself. Don't know yourself. Regardless to what you know. If you don't know yourself, you're in a lot of trouble. You're in a lot of trouble. You have to know yourself. Yeah? And that is what we're feeling. You know, we don't want nothing about, you know, I mean, oh, these Caribbean people, these teachers, with the vision and the glory in that. You know what I mean? Even though it forces us to live divided, but if you divide, you can't make a progress. See? You have to unite to make the progress for yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like to me, like we're coming out of slavery, but we're still enslaved. Right? We self-esteem wise then, you know, we got this inferior mentality. We have it within ourselves, and we as African people, we don't need to have it. You know what I mean? We don't need to have it. See, a man can say like, okay, you know, right now we got a place in South Africa, you know, at Sycamore or Uranium. You know about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? It's an all-white
Yeah,
city,
all white state, yeah, all white state in
right?
South Africa.
But you know, this is South Africa, you know, they got their own money, they got their own security system, you know what I mean? It's like to me, they set up themselves like a Vatican set up in a Rome. They set up themselves like in a side. So,
Mm.
I mean, like, when you look into all of these things here, it's like, can we do that? Can we do that? I mean, we independent in this small island, and we can't determine nothing for ourselves. See, even though we're independent, see, our government still got swear allegiance to the monarchy. Even though we independent, yeah.
But we ain't
So
got to.
we
We
done.
ain't got to, you know.
So why we are doing?
We choosing to, and it is
Say,
because we choosing to, and part of it is because we are not doing enough to awaken this level of consciousness of which we are speaking. Because as you mentioned a while ago, about, you said we're coming out of slavery, but we still like feel enslaved. And you know, when you look at it, right, we come out of enslavement, and the lands that were there, eventually the government even had to pay for the land. But even though they done pay for the land, we still today considering the land as crown lands. So who crown lands? How could crown have lands after all of these years when you used to work for the crown and the crown had owned it, and you were not even compensated? They compensated those who were managing the businesses and the land. And then now you get a chance to get it. You own people who is there looking over the system that was never designed for them. Is continuing to perpetuate this kind of foolishness. And so that's what I'm saying. A lot of this, until we really have these level of discussions, right, our people is not going to really open up their consciousness and see that. And I guess probably this is why those who are at the helm don't necessarily want to engage or be the one to be the catalyst to push these kind of conversations either. Because then it's going to open up the consciousness of the people to get the people to recognize that these people who we are electing to lead us and thinking that we are doing it for our benefit, they got a whole different plan. And that is why even up to now, as we are talking about, okay, independence would have been the first step. The next step is to become a republic where you don't have a governor general. And even when you're going to have your own president now, you still could have a choice of whether having just a ceremonial president, or you could have an executive president similar to what America has, like in Trump, where the president really get paid for the job that they're doing. In our case right now, we are paying a governor general some must say $1 million a year to do what? To be the king's representative in a territory that the king don't own anymore. So, and we say we're independent. And then after we go around and cuss and argue and vote for whoever we choose to vote for. And that day, when they are sworn in, we go in and we watch them take up a King James version of the Bible, put it up in the ear, and put their hand on it, and swear to pay allegiance to King Charles III, his heirs, and his successors. Do we really understand what that means? Do the people really understand what that means when that, allegiance is sworn? Because you're not just playing allegiance to the king as he is, you know? You're saying to his heirs, and if anyone of his family succeed him, if it's just somebody, if it's Judah succeed him, then you are playing allegiance to that person too, you know? So how could you be free? If you say you're free, how could you be free and feel comfortable having your leader playing allegiance to who you're supposed to be free from? And these kind of conversations are not necessarily had, and it is only when we have these kind of Alkebulan discussions and so on that sometimes we get this side of the story. And that's what I'm saying, I'm wondering if this is part of why they don't want to continue to help to promote this. But before you get in, there are a couple of comments came in, but I'll read the one that is on the screen right now. So the judicial system in St. Kitts and Nevis went backwards. They went back to a single judge trial, and a white man was imported to be the judge there. Well, I don't remember what the origins of those comments were. Balby Jones, I'm not seeing all of your comments on this feed here. I'm not sure where you're typing them from, but good night, and you know, we appreciate your contribution to the platform. I did see some of your comments before, but I didn't get to respond to it. Yeah, back to you know, Judah. That's you know what I mean, how I see it, you know. So Wayne, share your opinion.
Sometimes I don't want to say, but maybe we ain't really know what we're doing. You know what I mean? Because you see, when was emancipation? Emancipation was in 1834. 1834, right?
I think so.
Emancipation. The first of August, right?
Mm-hmm.
August is emancipation day. Because
Mm-hmm.
August Monday. Emancipation is. It says do anything concerning emancipation. We even know what emancipation means. Because I say, right? Emancipation means freedom out of slavery. So slavery means people own you. So you're free from that. You understand? But we still keeping it up. We still prolonging it. You know what I mean? So when we gonna change? You know what I mean?
But what you mean? What you
When we
mean
gonna
by what
change?
you
I
mean?
mean,
What do you mean by we prolong it? What you mean? What you mean? You mean that it is something that should not be acknowledged or celebrated? Or
and if it's supposed to got no monarchy in the business right now, because 1834 British, right? Them they're the own INIA scientists. It should be a British colony. You know what I mean? So we free from that in 1834. So we're British monarchy in the picture anymore. You understand? But the man got everything twisted up in over here. They say, oh, you have to get independence. When you don't get independence, you're still in the picture. So when they go, we own thing because we got we own ideas. It's not just, you know what I mean, Europe, all the ideas. These people talk and get in reading, deep in people. Ideas, one plan. We want to live the life, you know what I mean? Don't want bucket African son, man. Them man because they want to live the life how they live the life. See, and from the start to get rid of these colonial, like they tell you well, colonialism over, but they still continue it, you know what I mean? So they got a way in which to continue it, you know? And that's what they do all the way. See? And you know what I mean? So Africa wake up because it's something that must happen. Africa must awaken. See? Africa will unite. Nothing can stop these things, young virgin. Anything else could stop, but nothing can stop Africa unity. You know what I mean? Yeah, Africa, you can see what Africa was in the beginning. Everybody gonna see. You know what I mean? The great power Africa is in the earth. See, and these men can take it. Can, you know what I mean? So they just try to, they see the opportunity to really like put down Africa because you see, you really got to history of the because all the years the history of the, how they make up the barren wall. Probably after that, they ain't give no real history in the earth where Africa was all about. We gotta seek out these things, yeah. You know what I mean? To find out any real what really went on before Columbus come. You know what I mean? But we know that this modern world here is Rome them were responsible for, you know. And it's still a go on, man. You know what I mean? That beauty. So Africa got stand on its own. You know? Africa is independent like that. The whole thing set to keep I and I the African people to the bottom. See? Not because we deserve the bottom, but because who we are. Check. And to make it look like, well, you don't need to know nothing but Africa. You know what I mean? This is a new idea now. Yeah. Your identity is an African. Identity different from nationality. You know what I mean? Anybody can be a politician. You know what I mean? Because in society is what carry that there. But
okay,
so you find
Jordan.
in a society you got different identity. Hey.
we got a question here on the wall, right? This Virgin Bulby Jones
Huh?
saying, why all of the Caribbean islands take that step to go independence, then
Well,
park themselves
let
there
me
for
wake up. Yeah, wake up yourself.
okay, I think it is your soul, but anyway, let me repeat it again. You can hear me now? No, because you're
Yeah.
freezing up. But you were saying why all the Caribbean islands take that step to go independence, then park themselves there for 40, 50, 60 years without taking the step to becoming a republic state to get rid of the current head of state. Which is kind of what I was alluding to just now, because we would have gotten to independence, but the next step is to become a republic. And many of these countries, even after getting independence, knowing the next step, have still just maintained independence. And it come down to a little bit, well, let me see if I can respond before you, Judah. It comes down to a point I was making a bit earlier, where we kind of feel like, okay, we got included now, that inclusiveness thing. You remember, like in America, when you had the segregation issue, where you had, bathrooms for white people and all the colors could go certain colors couldn't go certain places and so on. After they changed those rules and regulations, a lot of the people feel as if, well, okay, we don't need to carry on this fight that Marcus Garvey and not Marcus Garvey, but Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and so were fighting for anymore, because we know we win, because we could now do just what they could do when it was just like a ploy. And so probably that's part of what happened to us. Independence now, so you feel like, okay, you're on your own and you got your own leader and so on, but not necessarily realizing that even though you got your prime minister, your premier, or whatever it is, they still got to answer to the governor general, because according to your hierarchy, the highest position in the country is your governor general, and the governor general represents the king or the queen. And in your House of Assembly, you can't pass any laws unless a piece of wood that is called a mace is in there. If somebody gonna thief the mace for whatever reason, you can't go to House of Assembly again, and you can't pass no laws in your country. So if there's a law that is supposed to pass today to save the life of all the people in your country, and that piece of wood goes missing, everybody gone dead, because you can't pass the law without that piece of wood in there, which represents the authority. And that's what the mace represents, the authority of the king, or the authority of I mean, it's today I posted something, because I noticed that in Burkina Faso, the leader in Burkina Faso stopped the lawyers them from wearing that stupid white wig that the you see these people wearing. This foolish wig. We black people put on this stupid looking wig, talking about we were lawyers and so on, and judges and all kind of things. These things are colonial relics, and we still continue to perpetuate it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's a meditation. It's a meditation. Yeah, sorry about that. Let me see what happened here. Okay, I hope I am back. I got kind of disconnected by a call there. If you're hearing me, I am back. Judah, you hear me? While I'm waiting for Judah, let me see. Where will I put these cars in the infrastructure there? Are there mechanics or people trained to be mechanics so that they can maintain these vehicles? I wonder if you're talking about those vehicles that came in recently. I don't know. I know recently I would have heard the Prime Minister talking about training for electric vehicles, that they're seeking to do some works in terms of equipping our young people with skills to be able to fix or service electric vehicles. I don't know if that's what you alluded to. You were alluding to Burby Jones, but if so, that's the case. If not, in regards to some of the surplus vehicles that are coming in, if they're just regular gasoline, diesel engines, we do have more than enough certified and professional mechanics around to deal with whatever issues that we may have as a result of the surplus of vehicles. I guess it just means that it means a couple of things. It means that transportation has become a necessity. It means that maybe some of the car companies on the island might be too pricey and still out of the range of the average individuals, and they are seeing opportunities, whether it's in Japan, China, or wherever it is. And if when they work out their maths, if it is feasible, then they make the transaction. My thing is, though, one of the issues I have with that is, which I kind of do understand the argument in regards to some of these vehicles coming in, they claim eventually after a while they might have had problems and they end up on the road and so on, broken down or whatever the case may be. But my thing is, the environmental levy, you charge an extra $5,000. Things tied with people already. This extra $5,000 that is being taken as a result of that in terms of the environment, we are not necessarily seeing. Well, let me figure out first. If that money goes into a specific fund for the environment, if it is just taken and then used to pad up other ministries or other areas, or if, like I said, that it goes into a specific fund that addresses environmental issues and concerns, and if that is the scenario, then if you do have the broken down vehicles and so on, then you should have a fund already set up to deal with that already, because you would have been taking monies for that. So I don't think that should be a major concern. But that is just my 2 cents where that is concerned, Burby Jones. Ross Judah, if you're hearing me still,
Yes.
the discussion so far fruitful, timely, as we discuss Alkebulan Stories Month. Some say Black History Month. And we are seeking to look at a number of issues, why possibly we are not paying as much attention to it, why we really should be paying more attention to it, and really trying to assess and look at maybe some of the possibilities, why and why not. And we are really grateful for those of you who have stayed with us so far and have been engaging in the discussion. I did promise to put a number in the chat, but I didn't, in case anybody wanted to call in. I just put it in the chat there. If you want to call, it's WhatsApp only. So if you want to weigh in, you can call in and weigh in your 2 cents on the discussion. But Ras Judah, we are really living in some serious times as you talk about Alkebulan, as we talk about Alkebulan, Stories Month. There's a lot that is going on right now in terms of seeking to bridge that gap between Alkebulan and the Caribbean. And I think a lot more needs to be done in that regards. I sometimes when I listen to our elected officials and so on, and I look at, you know, global trends, and even some of these big countries, whether it's America, those European territories, China, Russia, all of them are saying that Africa, Alkebulan, is that rising territory. When they look at the population and they look at the age, the rising age group, that population is in Alkebulan, that between 18 to 35, right? And they're seeing that in terms of whether it's labor, whether it's in terms of that force that would be able to take advantage of the AI technologies and all of the other technology-driven scenarios and so on. Right now, they knew that all the time too. That's where all the minerals that they need to continue to propagate their industries and so on. And so the world is looking to Alkebulan. Why are we still so bent on focusing on Europe and America and not necessarily looking to tap into that source and capitalize on it, especially with our proximity to Alkebulan? We have leaders who talk about developing diplomatic relations with a lot of these territories, but seemingly the diplomatic relations were only developed in an effort to strengthen the passport so that they can say, oh, we have visa-free access to 100 and how much ever countries, right? But no follow-up in terms of really seeking to develop, whether it's technical exchanges, trade relations, you know, educational relations, you know, whatever other kind of ways that they could really benefit from these territories. I know in Nevis, for example, well, I don't know if St. Kitts as well, I know there's scholarships from Morocco. So I could say that has happened, but we need to see a lot more in terms of developing relations. We need to finally, I mean, I would have heard Antigua tried, and I think Barbados would have tried in more recent times to develop direct flights out of Alkebulan to the Caribbean. But these are things that we really need to look at. Tourists ain't just traveling from Europe, tourists ain't just traveling, tourist travelers all over. The Asians want to go somewhere, the Alkebulan people want to go somewhere, the Russians want to go somewhere. Why are we not seeking to tap into, go to some of these places and have our trade shows and do our tourism thing and so on to encourage some of these very wealthy people in some of these territories as well too? Because even if you just want to target high end, as the Premier likes to talk about, we could bring some of these high end people here too. Let me go back here. I think, okay, so Bobby Jones was saying, yep, I'm talking about those delivery. Recently, it was a shipment of 3,007 cars. I think 1,000 of, no, I think it's 307. But anyway, I'm not sure the figures. But anyway, you say 1,007 coming over the neighbors, and there's two other small shipments to come. Okay, so they're talking about a number of vehicles that's coming into the island, and I guess that's what he was concerned about, in the sense of if the mechanics would have been able to deal with some of the breakdowns and so on that we would have as a result of so much more vehicles on the island. But you know, Ross Judah, this topic, I'm kind of, well, let me put it this way. I'm glad we opened this kind of worms. I was about to say it's kind of sad that it's at the end of the month, but our reality is that these are discussions that we really want to have. And one of my mottos for the past years, I would have been creating posts on social media with this statement saying, Alkebulan stories not only for a month, right? Because my thing is that our story should be shared all along and not just limited to a month. However, I want to implore our people to, when the month come around, because every day is a day, but some of you still celebrate your Earth Strong or your birthday, or you still celebrate your anniversary, or you still celebrate, you know what I mean, whatever else you may up to celebrate. So yes, we should be Alkebulan conscious every day. Yes, we should be sharing Alkebulan stories every day. However, a month is allocated to celebrate it. And I want to implore each one of us, even if you did not do it throughout this month, we've got a couple more days in the month still, and take some time and do something, you know, research something about Alkebulan. I mean, maybe you could even look up the word Alkebulan, and maybe, because I'm sure some of you might be like, why is saying Alkebulan? I've never even heard Alkebulan. But you know, these are things that we need to do so we could stimulate the discussion, because I use that word also because, like I said, it's a sort of rebellious means of not accepting the European name Africa that was given. And so, you know, like me, this is my name was not the name that my parents gave me. So it's a part of rebellion. I changed it legally, right? And so that rebellious, and we have to really be, you know, continue to be conscious. There's a lot of things to learn about Alkebulan. There's a lot of things, we can't cover everything in this topic. And I myself don't know everything, but I've opted to bring the topic to the table and the discussion so that we can explore it. We can hear your views and opinions, and we can also engage the discussion more so that eventually more people can do more research. More people can then begin to feel more empowered to do more things. Like we are saying here, change the name. You know, think about now lobbying to get an African language, an Alkebulan language. We have Spanish, we have French, and we are now even seeking to teach Mandarin in school. But up to this point, we have not thought about saying, okay, well, there's so many languages in Alkebulan, but let's take one and seek to introduce that, even if it's Swahili, which is one of the more popular ones, you know? So, Judah, what's your view on that?
Well, all of that is great things, you know what I mean? Because every nickel make a muck, you know? One cock for the basket. You know what I mean? And even as we talk, you know, really and truly, we see a lot. We see a lot, especially the young generation, rebelling against the standards set by colonialism, you know, and more accepting, you know, pieces of the African. For example, we see a lot of man and woman are like wearing dreadlocks today, which is they accept the hair. And they're growing it to the point that, well, they even got, you know, I mean, you could go in a barber salon, or in a salon, hair salon, and get locks and all these, you know what I mean? Which is African, you know what I mean? So it's like, so Mr. Straight and Mr. Palmer for humble, right? So it's like, these is things where we help us to reconnect to ourselves, our own culture, you know what I mean, our value, you know. But that's, you know, it's okay, you know, like for me, I used to like going at a junk food place, but you know what I mean, it's we trying to make power, you know. But I think if you know what I mean, if the authorities they were interested, a lot more could have been achieved, you know what I mean, if we were interested in this thing. But like I said, we just deal with what they give us to deal with. All we want to deal with is the queen. You understand? And what the queen and the king of England said was, right? You don't really want to be Africa, you know. Which, you know, when we talk about Africa, we feel like we're talking about a land somewhere. When we talk about Africa, it's I and I, the people that we talk about. We is the one that's suffering, you know, not the land, you know. We is the one where the system set up yet. We is the one to try to discredit. We is the one where if we're gonna make any progress at all, we have to really, really, really think about leaving the system here behind. Leaving it. We cannot go on like, well, the system is the best thing that ever come around and it's a perfect so because they come from colonialism. No, you know what I mean? So then the colonial man got a more superior mind than the African mind. So what all of these degrees and all of these doctorate and all of these things we go in university and study and so on. Educated and education. And we can't make a system for us that will benefit us. You know what I mean? Then we ain't really like serious in life. You know? We have to be thinking in terms of creating our own system and don't want nothing more to do with the colonial system. Not that there is any enemy of Europe or anything like that. But time come when the child have to grow up, you know, and make your own law, your own house. See? In Africa, we need to reach to that the point there, you know what I mean? We have to determine our own destiny. See? Because when again we're gonna do things here. You know what I mean? When again, this is the 21st century in the 21st century. And the same guy was planning up since the 16th now where the century there. Right? Still a plan us today. You know what I mean? So when again we have to get it right. And it's really like you see, these what your self-reliance are the best, eh? It's not a dependency we're going up and now we're depending on European Union, we're depending on this for little handouts, for little grants, and these are the things we're really steering with agenda. You know, all we're concerned about is like what they want us to be concerned about, you know what I mean? So it's like all of these things really reflecting poorly on us as an educated people. It's like you make that laugh after you. Say, they're not education and watch you. You can't figure it out yet. You know what I mean? So it's a time come where we got to figure out things for this and where we
But
can make a system.
but Judah, you may be right when you say they laughing,
Benefit us.
they laughing after us for real. Because here is it that you cried out and you bawled out because you were being oppressed by a certain group of people. And then even though these group of people have been moved and removed, they are replaced with people who look like me and you. But these people who look like me and you have now come to function and operate the system. They have learned the system and realized that they personally and their cronies and maybe families and so on can benefit from the system. And so they have gotten to a point where for them, the status quo is beneficial to them. So they don't necessarily see the need to try to change it because they're not feeling the change. How many benefit from what? Well, let's see.
Which way they
I am the prime. Okay, so let me tell you how I benefit. I am the prime minister, and your tax is paying me. And even though I am supposed to be your employee, I am able to use reverse. I am able to use reverse psychology to get you to feel like I am the boss, and is what I say. And so I am able to benefit from all of the perks of being the prime minister, and I could give you whatever little story when it's time, when time come, you know what I mean, for you to put me back there again. I come and I give you a little handout and I bring a little party for you and, you know, whatever. And the thing continues. So I benefit in because I live in large again, and at the end of it, maybe in the next, when I come out in 5 years or 10 years, I got 5 houses, 2 in Dubai, 1 in Canada, 1. So how many I am benefiting? Now my people, my people might not benefit. My people might not be, and that's what I'm saying. But this is the reality that we are dealing with, because my point is, After 1834, after 1834, we were asked to work extra 4 years free. They work for that extra 4 years free. Then they continue. You reach the point where you say you get independence. When you get independence, they gave you nothing. You have to find ways and means of making money for yourself. But you use the system that they left to continue to oppress your people. Because instead of really helping by, that's what I'm saying, the crown land. What crown land you talking about? Everybody was supposed to be given a set amount of land.
Yahsonn.
Yo.
Yahsonn.
Yo.
What's saying, right? You hear me?
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying, right? When we talk about benefiting now, I know these man think when they acquire the material wealth, it's benefit, right? But I mean, life shows that these things ain't a benefit. You're being deceived. That what happening. You ain't benefiting. Because me I say, right? The only progress in life is the truth, eh? So if you're not dealing with the truth, you ain't progressing. See? Because if you're not dealing with the truth, you're dealing with a lie. Right? And a lie is something that is not real. Right? So it's only the truth can set you free, and it's only the truth can make you progress. In a lie, you know, any other thing is illusion. So if you take the people them job and you go in there and you say, well, you're going to send rich yourself by gathering much money and much whatever. And when you don't get out of them, you're dead. What benefit it was to you? There ain't no benefit. You see, it's an illusion we are under, right? And we've been sold this illusion, even from when you're at school, right? That the whole system is to keep you hooked to the system and the system value and system idea of how people should live. You know what I mean? So the things that we pursue in life is really is our detriment. That's what we're pursuing, and we ain't taking the time. Okay, for example, I was trying this stuff, Virgin. We complain a lot pollution, right? Environmental pollution and all this. These things were polluting the environment. There were things sold in stores, right? You have to go buy them, pay money for them. But they end up being pollutant to you. But it was pollutant all the time, but you ain't seen it. You ain't just come pollutant. It's pollutant all the time. But because the man make another say, yeah. But you see, that's the whole system is a fake system, right? Everything is fake. Every money is a fake is all same. You understand? We still have reality of life to face. That is what the African man knew and was dealing with in the beginning before the slavery come. How to interact with nature, which is real, not a fake, nothing. See? The cyberspace, they want to put you in now, cyberspace, so your life become restricted to cyberspace. And we feel that is progress. I mean, think of it. You know? To me, we're not thinking. See? We're not thinking. Because how we're being educated, you know, and we value system. So that was a Rastafari is a good way for I and I, anybody to reconnect, you know what I mean, to themselves, but especially the African people, you know, put you back in touch with the roots and your culture, you know, and get off of this kind of illusion, because it's an illusion we are under. We're just making believe. See? That's how we do. Make believe by inside this. You understand? We're not going to time to really educate the nation. We're going to time for these things because we want this big lifestyle where I'm show you, you know what I mean? We say, well, like that is future, you know? He want to live in a big bunker under the earth, you know? Yeah, man, these people dream, you know, we have to wake up. You know, I know that the earth is the land and the fullness thereof, you know, and the hope that the healing and the nation. We got to know these things. We don't know a plan. And we come from the jungle. We out there ain't nothing about no plan. Check it. So these is the deficit what we got. You know what I mean? And we don't But you see, we only gonna know ourselves when we're back against the wall. The time coming. Yeah, the time coming. See, Africa have to unite, you know. If we don't unite, then we never gonna get things straight. See? And everybody work is to keep us distracted. So we don't focus on what we need to do. Because Africa don't unite, the whole world are gonna perish. Because Africa, the African man, is like the African man and the African woman are the gods and the goddesses are there. These the ones supposed to be guiding them. Yeah? These the ones supposed to be guiding them. Not saying the other races don't have the power to play, but they ain't in the right place. The thing them is not in the right place. The place is not in the right position. See? So that's why you're gonna be all in that confliction and confusion. Yeah, and I as African people, we need to get together. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have government structure by looking at it, you must know it's still plantation business. To keeping up. And all the plantation thing was to keep us divided. That's what they did from the people from Africa. They split up the tribes there and make sure like no communication and about no understanding about it. You know what I mean? You can't work together. See? So that's the strategy where the man can say all the time, you cannot work together. Well, you can work together. But them can work together. See? So these barriers that we can overcome, I just mind we can overcome these things. And I know I'm positive like Rastafari is a remember Rastafari is a consciousness, you know. Tell us you have to look within yourself to find your truth, you know what I mean? That is what we as African people need to stop looking.
Okay, look like
Stop looking.
yeah,
Sometimes I
it
hear
look
them
like
tell a story.
you're going in and out a little bit, you know. So we would have missed
And the
a good bit
connection,
of what
man.
you were saying there. Well, yeah. So if you're back again, talk again. Let me hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So go ahead
You
then. Go
hear
on
me?
through. Yeah.
Yeah, when I say story where they say like a lot of black people was in the West when Columbus then came, right? To set up this new world. And a lot of black people was in the West America now claim say that they are not African. But African people are whole head people, regardless of where they from. See?
Right.
African people are bad people. Right? Maybe slavery catch them in the Western world, but originally it's Africa they came from. You know what I mean? So it's no separation, because yeah, all of these things they will try to make you feel like, oh, we from the West and you from Africa, we is two different set of black. No, man. It's bullied people. Check? Yeah, bullied people.
But
One
Buddha,
bully. Yeah.
isn't that part of what we're talking about here when we're saying that, especially for us in the Caribbean, a lot of our the history that was taught to us was just from the enslavement era up until now. So a lot of these things that you're
Yes,
talking
sir.
about prior to that, many don't really know about. So when you start to tell people that, you know, the original Chinese people, the original Filipino people, were people who look like me and you know, when you go through these
What?
people's history, and this should have been, so as you said, enslavement might have made people who would have already been out there, because years before Mansa Musa and many other Alkebulans would have been, you know, going around the world on boats and so on. So even some of these people who are considered Taino and so on were originally some of our people who would have already traveled and were met in some of these regions. So
Remember,
understanding these things
remember,
and the context of history is critical. So if you
yeah,
started from
man.
just the enslavement era, then that is what you're gonna get, and that is why, like, a lot of people in America, even here in America, like when we look at there's a major issue that's going on in terms of the immigration and migration issue, right? Now, But if you know your history and you're supposed to put things into proper perspective, the people who are talking about and who are calling other people migrants, they're the real migrants. Because these British people who ran away from Britain and came to what they call Turtle Island met the Alkebulans and the indigenous people living here on this land. They pushed them on
Telling
what they
you.
call reservations and reserves, and then now they are claiming that other people are migrants. The Mexicans that they are considering to be migrants, California where I am, Texas, and these places all belonged to the quote-unquote Mexicans. They cheaply buy out the land and do all kind of thing and end up and own these lands. Louisiana was Haiti. I think it's Haiti they buy that from, right? You know, like, so that's why your stories are so important. It's so important for us to really look at our stories and seek to really get the story from even before what they want us. Because if you allow history to just limit you to a specific date, then a lot of things would be flawed in your perspective. And that is why if you're only looking at Africa, then you wouldn't know that before the Berlin Conference, that point in history when they sat down at the Berlin Conference and shared up Africa like a piece of cake. And then is when they call the landmass Africa. Then you would, when you hear me say Alkebulan, or you hear somebody use the term Abyssinia, or somebody use the word Ethiopia to refer to the entire landmass, you now might be thinking, what is these people talking about? And so
That's
we
right.
got to be able to take some time and go back into our stories, find out more about our stories, not just what they told us, not just what we were given in this education system that was never designed for us to really emancipate ourselves, but was just designed for us to be a cog in the wheel. Because the system, the education that you get is what they call general education that aids you to function effectively in a system that was already designed for you. So that is where we are, and that is why sometimes we have, we are faced with these kind of challenges. Yeah, guys, that's the man.
I'm saying the wickedness it is, between that five, we try, mind condition, You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is what we got. We have to educate ourselves for our benefit, for the benefit of Africa. I mean, more than we just can continue the colonial experiment, It's just like experiment, American telecalling, American dreamer, whatever, dream something. You have to wake up to live, I mean? And dream and live. After you don't dream, you have to wake up and live. So we still this dream thing, man, African people. Because we really need to get ourselves together. And, we coming together, but, you see, I'll tell you something, right? Even with the Black History program in school, hey, I hope, right, that within time, we're going to see all of these things come a part of the curriculum. Because there going to be no other alternative No other, it must happen. This is something that must happen. Africa must, rise again. You know what I mean? You something must happen. So we don't become necessary. You know what I
But
mean?
Judah, even as you make that point, right? In America, if you're in America and you go to the American school system, you must do American history. So why is it that
yeah.
in a predominantly Alkebulan based community, you can learn about Alkebulan? I mean, you can learn Alkebulan history. So it still
Remember,
shows you the kind of. You got to deal with that?
I am from World Bank. Yeah? Remember
So why?
huh?
So what does IMF and World Bank have to do with me and my curriculum have a subject about
Well,
Alkebulan?
as long as you want any developmental loan for your country, you better be teaching about the system and not about African liberation, Remember, this is the whole idea. This is how they got locked down and tied down. You have to stick to this agenda or else you committing financial things. See, the come and tell you economy and all of these things, right? To me, right, this is just I personal look at the whole thing of economy. The economy is the people, right? If the people them ignorant, you understand? Just streamline economy. See? But if the people them creative, free thinkers, the economy is strong. See? It's the whole vibration down now. The man them went university and school, they went. Yeah? That is why they were able to come up with them ideas. See, when I was, remember, education is development. It means you modify and behavior. It means you control in mind, right? So that is where we don't mind control and condition everything. We just function in this way against your best interest. That's how we, you understand? So we really need to, as a people, make sure that we know ourselves. To me, we training of consciousness. Like we let we jump then. Like you ain't really aware yourself to the fullness. Like, we trying to get there, but we just jump. Like, with this idea that this Western world is the best things. You know what I mean?
But
Japan the earth.
so the thing is it that we just drunk, or is it that there is a concerted effort to keep us in that state? And I said that, right, like earlier on when you spoke about emancipation, right? A point this thought came to me because it's something that I keep saying over the years. Emancipation, I just say, celebrated on the 1st of August, right? It coincides with Culturama and Nevis, right? Now, it is not something, it should be something that should be commemorated. However, and this is what I'm saying, like when you talk about the drunkenness, like if it is not intentional, because here is it an Emancipation Day where you could use that time to even this Culturama, you could have a whole set of activities geared around emancipation. You could even have a whole show with poetry and dramatization and artists performing and so on, and people reading out and the whole thing, but geared towards that, so that at least the consciousness of what did they signifies could be recognized. But instead, it is celebrated in walk up and drink rum and get drunk and party and forget about that and then come back on the plantation the next day to work. So, as you said that, these are some of the things that I'm talking about. Why can't that well, it is celebrated sometime not on the 1st, because it is usually the first Monday in August. But the day itself,
It's Monday?
why can't
You mean
no.
August?
What I'm saying, for the Culturama, for the Culturama celebrations, Dear Juve or whatever is usually the first Monday in August. So maybe the first Monday might not necessarily fall on the 1st. So that's what I meant in that sense. So all I'm saying though is that the 1st of August should be commemorated in that way. I think St. Lucia does it. I have seen in the past St. Lucia would have had in the morning they start with activities and they involve like the school children and different prominent people from whether it's the Ministry of Culture and Arts and so on, and they have a whole presentation which is geared towards the consciousness of emancipation and what it means and what the day signifies. So what I'm saying on our end now, and that's what I'm saying, like that continuation of that drunkenness as you're talking about is maintained, because instead of commemorating the day in such regard, it's usually commemorated by drinking rum and party and drink rum and get drunk at it's Juve morning, usually it's Juve, right? So you're free to drink rum and forget about whatever, and not the consciousness of what really went on and why you really need to help to empower your youths to learn of their past, like Marcus Garvey says, so that you're not like a tree without roots. Yeah, greetings Shabbos, greetings Melissa Pemberton, greetings Rutlin Hill, and all the others who are logging in. Enough respect.
See what you still right? Emancipation Day is a holiday. Like you said, it's a part of the whole Culturama festival, right? Independence is a holiday, right? African Liberation Day. How come that in a holiday?
Come down to the consciousness of the people again, and these are the things that we're talking about. It's not a holiday, and it's not even celebrated. It's not even commemorated by any ministry official. No ministry commemorate Alkebulan Liberation Day, but Rastafari do it. So if it was Rastafari, and Rastafari might invite the minister, invite whatever when they have their celebration.
Sir, Ethiopia and Ghana, with in Africa, African Liberation Day. Yeah, I mean we gotta celebrate ourselves, you know. Like nobody wants that for us. You know, we gotta have our calendar, you know. Yeah, calendar of events, you know. Not just European thing. You know, I mean, we need to really drop the European idea and work on myself. You know what I mean? Because it's time for me to do that. Time, you know, we not just okay, if we say okay, we don't celebrate emancipation day. Emancipation and emancipation is about that. You know what I mean? Yeah, because we don't want to go to no more slave. And I see that is that's how I set up myself to go to more slave. You know? Yeah, but now go to no more slave. Can't get no more slave.
But Alkebulan Liberation Day, as you said, it like I was pointing out a while ago, over the years, the only people who would have recognized Alkebulan Liberation Day was Rastafari. In terms of, from a governmental standpoint, from a Ministry of Culture or any one of those areas that you would expect to want to commemorate these things and get totally involved in these things, they are mostly just invited as a guest speaker to a presentation that is put on by Rastafari. Likewise, the Buckley's uprising without Rastafari over the years. So you realize a trend when it comes to anything that has to do with Alkebulan consciousness. And that's what I'm talking about. You said that it's only we who would have to set up with calendars and celebrate these things, but seemingly it is only Rastafari who have been doing that over the years. Because these things that we're talking about, whether it is Alkebulan Liberation Day, or it is Emancipation Day, or it is Marcus Garvey Earth Strong, or it is Haile Selassie's Earth Strong, or his coronation. These are days that are only recognized by, so to speak, Rastafari and are only brought to the fore by Rastafari. And for example, a panel discussion like this is only here because of Rastafari. I mean, look, let's look at the month. How many media outlets really did anything specific towards African Alkebulan liberation? Only Freedom FM, I think. I see Freedom FM had a couple of weeks of activities, a couple of different programs that were geared towards this level of discussion and so on. Most of the other media outlets, we have not seen or heard anything to say, hey, this is Alkebulan, History Month, let's do some things, let's put on some things. From the government side, have we seen any events or activities set up to say, hey, as a people, let's do this, even from the Ministry of Culture? Have we? I mean, I don't know. You're on syndicate, you're on the go. I don't know. I could only presume.
It's not important, you know what I mean? Yeah, I tell you right now, Rasta, they don't really, we moving into, they're being moved into this cyberspace field, you know? Yeah, that they really can't, the remaining sense of Africa, you know? The cyberspace, yeah.
Yeah, but do that. Hear me out. The cyberspace thing, right? Still ain't much of an excuse, because I think, and as you said that, I think that even Rastafari, as an organization and as groups, need to get more involved in the cyberspace to some extent, because as things are changing, we can continue to have that meditation that, or it is Babylon thing, and me want to get in the system. We got to be able to still, to some extent, make use of the tools, because the tools were not necessarily created to be destructive. Like a knife, for example. A knife was not made to kill people, A knife was made in order to use as a tool to make some tasks more effective. But man within their mind would have taken a knife and used it to do evil. So the same way, the internet and the media and so on could be used to push your positive agenda as well.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this, right? Is that that's what the whole education prepare us for, right? The cyberspace, the cyberspace reality, virtual. No, the human design are created for that. I don't think so. So even though these things within the cell ain't bad, you got the good with it, what I mean? I think we got other things where you need to really connect with, especially yourself. You need to connect with your own self, right? This whole virtual reality and cyberspace business is taking you out of yourself, taking you away from yourself, putting something else. We need to connect with ourselves. What I was saying is like the whole root of the African dilemma. We've been taken away from ourselves, out of self-colonialism. Keep the outside of itself, we don't teach you nothing inside itself, or go to love yourself. You know, let's teach you to hate yourself because you've been educated for it. You know, that is, even though they bad, you can put them to good. You right now, you use them. You got other things, you know, to me, more important, you know, which is to connect with this person, more like. So, for example, like I said, just a seeking for the kingdom and righteousness, right? No, what I mean, he said, if you seek him first, then everything else can happen, which means the order in life, you know. And we do that yet, we don't do that yet. The question, which means we need to start like that. See, got to start like you have to see God first. Kingdom and the righteousness, which means you have to deny yourself, you know, all these things here, and then you will know everything after that. Everything gonna fall forward. But because this thing here by the master, you see, His Majesty saying all of these stuff are good. It's to captivate your heart, and then you just slave for them all the way to your life. To life, it to life, show. You know, you taking time to think about not so bad. You see, you remove it, not you really I work, you know, I mean, it's virtual reality and remove it. That's the kind of thing. Joke business, man. Therefore, we are the gods and goddesses of the earth. You know, African people. Everybody else is there. We African people get a real up. Like them time now, your time now, Africa time. They haven't done set itself for that, you know. So, sure, that will be done. Yeah, man, that will. I remember last time we as Rasta now, we just come to keep an people conscious. I mean, all people, but especially African people. We as Rasta, we keep conscious. The system is terrible there. Yeah. And we really got to wake up because, I mean, we can teach the generation, I think, see? Can't,
Yes,
it's like
but yeah,
education. It's not,
as,
I'm saying it's
as
not,
we reach out, as we
education is
reach
not
them,
reaching.
right? As we reach them and as we seek them, we will have to use whatever means to reach them. So just like
Of course,
even where Yeshua show you within the scriptures, you know, I remember the parable where a lot of people misinterpret when I think it was Philip who was supposed to go to visit some people, and he got a vision with all this food come down out of heaven, you know what I mean, wrap up in a sheet, and tell him, well, you know what I mean, don't call nothing that the Almighty call, I mean, unclean, because he was saying these things were unclean and we shouldn't really eat them and so. But all of the things went back up in the sheet, so it wasn't really anything that had to do anything with eating. What he was explaining was that he would have had to go to some people, and these people were really usually considered unclean and so on, but you got to go take the message to them. So even if you mean going in the rum shop, even if you mean going in the prostitution house, even if you mean going wherever to get the message to them. So I said that as to say, that's the same concept that we have to have with the modern technology. If a lot of the youths, and if that's where a lot of the people are, and we have to utilize these means to get to them, then sometimes that is what. So in that sense, that's why I was saying it's a tool. So the problem become, like even the scripture show you, it's not money is the root of all evil, but it's the love of money. So it's when you become like attached and as you say, get into that cyber world now where you in that virtual reality kind of business now. That's a whole different ball game to using a tool now to communicate and reach out and touch base with people who you prior to this might not have been able to do so. Because with these technological advancements now, we can talk to somebody in Ethiopia, we can talk to somebody in Sudan, we could have a live here with, you know what I mean, and get to learn about what maybe Rastafari is like, what they're experiencing in that part of the globe and so on. Yeah,
Yes, you know.
Bobby Jones, I put a number in the chat already, Bobby Jones. It's 1-559-541-2758. So that's 1-559-541-2758. I can put it back in there again if you didn't get it. If you desire to call in Bobby Jones. But yeah, Rastaman, Ras Judah, you know, these are some of the things, and I have been thinking about this for a bit as well, and I know that Rastafari have, well, especially like a lot of the elders, you know, would have their reservations where technology is concerned, because I know we are coming from a school where a lot of the elders, you know, burn technology, as they would put it, and so on, you know. But like I say, as I've gone through the system, I've recognized that it comes down to a mindset. And like I say, we could still be using donkey cart and horse cart and carriage, but transportation would have advanced, and some of us own vehicles, you know. We got a modern, most of us got what they call a smartphone today. So to some extent, what I'm saying is, you know, we got to be able to look at the advancement, embrace the positives, and just ignore, just leave the negatives, because that's just how the world set up here, positive and negative. And so I am thinking that we need to, as much as possible, use these means, because like Rastafari, for example, in more recent times, I've seen one or two more new opportunities for Rastafari discussions, and whether it's YouTube and other social media platforms, which is really pretty good. And we do need to have a lot more of this, because like I'm saying, how else are we going to get the message out? How else? I mean, it's supposed to be spreading the word to the four corners of the world, and we have opportunities to do that now. And so we definitely have to make use of the opportunities using whatever tools that we see available. So I'm just saying that I know everybody won't, but I'm just saying that it is something that we have to consider in terms of embracing, in terms of seeking to have our space out there and get our messages out there, because we still have to, if we see all of these problems and we know that we are the solution, then we have to find ways and means of presenting the solution as a part of the solution to the problem. Because if it was like when I was growing up, Rastafari got so much fight. If there wasn't one or two or three or four Rastafari who, amidst all the fight, didn't decide to stick around still and be within the system and be around, then people like me would not have been inspired and motivated to say, by you could face the struggle, because see this man, you got through it too. And so that is why it's imperative for me and others now who would have gone through that, still be the example and still do as much as possible to show those who are coming by, you can do this, you know, and you can still remain positive, and you can still remain hopeful, and you can still hold your faith. And even though you're not like, you don't hold the views of the majority, eventually they will come to see your truths, because we are living it today. Today cannabis legal. I mean, I talked to a brethren a couple of weeks ago, and he told me he actually called police for a man whose goats came on his farm and bite up his cannabis trees. And he called the police to show the police the evidence, and then the police went to look for the man and his goats and didn't trouble he and his trees. And when I heard that story, I'm like, I give thanks to be alive today, to be hearing a story like that. and sink it. Me talking in me talking in America and sink it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, we would have gone through a lot. And to see the you know, some of these things today, it's great that I could be alive to see some of these changes. And so we got to continue. As much as maybe we might only have 6 people on this chat, we might not have 1,000 people, we might not have 10,000 people, but we still have to continue the mission. So Ross Judah, you know, we would have been on here for, you know, 2 hours plus reasoning. You might not even see him so long, but you know, whenever it comes to Alkebulan history and Alkebulan consciousness, you know, I mean, it is something that is passionate and fundamental to us as a people. And I know, you know what I mean, it's years we would have been going through a lot of reasonings. I remember the days of, you know, me going to CFBC and many weekends, you know, me and you and Naftali, rest in peace, soldier, you know, Nigos, you know, and Luba, you know, heal up the man when you see the man for me too as well, you know. But that's the kind of school that we had. We would sit and we would reason and we go through all kind of different, you know, exchange of topics, and the argument gets so heated that we left it until the next week and come back again, you know what I mean, and continue the reasoning again. So it's years now, and I know that we would have hoped that now in 2025 that we don't have to go through that kind of conversation anymore. You know what I mean? That we don't have to be going through that in 2025. Because we don't go through this, so we would have been hopeful that 2025 now, we would have been seeing, you know what I mean, our society, you know, more conscious. We probably should have done that. I mean, get to the Republic state, you know, have maybe even a Rasta government and all, if you know, like to that level. But I don't know. I mean, the work continues and we will have to continue the works. So as we kind of wind up, you know what I mean, your final thoughts in relation to the topic, you know, Alkebulan Stories Month, the contributions, what we can do in terms of, you know, making the month more meaningful and recognized by even those who are in authority. And, you know, some of what you think we can do as a people to play our little part. Since those at the helm might not do it, what else we can do to seek to empower our youths, the future generation, to be more conscious about themselves and their Alkebulan heritage.
You know, but you know, you see, education is where we have to be.
Your face ain't in the screen. Come in the screen, let the people them see your face.
You can see I.
Okay, better now, yeah.
See I.
Yeah. Come across a little bit more. Come across a little bit more. Yeah.
Ethiopian flag. I say, why am I flagging the Ethiopian flag? Right?
Okay, yeah.
You are
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, man, go on.
Yeah, I was saying education, right, is the process we have to use, right? That's the vehicle we are used to really like we can stop with ourselves, you know. How long it gonna take, and I don't know, but I hope, you know. because
Yes, I do right.
we don't understand.
Hold 1 second.
Yes,
Hold
sir.
1 second. We got a call on the line, you know. So let's see. Let's take in the caller. Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, man. Yeah, big up yourself, man. Good evening to you and the guest. We can't really see the guest that well, but let's move forward, man. Yeah, I was telling in some chats about the cars, you know. Yeah, and I want to make a correction. Them figures that I put out there was not correct. So there was some 300 plus cars that came into St. Kitts, a shipment, and then there's 2 other shipments that I heard, 2 smaller shipments that's supposed to arrive. My thing is, you know, 300 and something cars coming into the Federation, and there was not, I mean, I stand corrected, right? But it doesn't seem that there was not even one tractor. There was not even one backhoe. There was not even one heavy equipment to say, well, any one of those persons who order those cars, no one is opening up their minds to say, instead of me importing a BMW X6, let me import 2 tractors. Let me import 3 tractors. There was not even one tractor on that shipment, from what I'm understanding. So we're seeing where the people's minds are. Nobody in the private sector take it upon themselves to say, let me import some tractors and start up a tractor rental business so we can improve on the agriculture situation there. You know what I mean? No heavy equipment. But you mentioned Burkina Faso, right? And those Sahel countries, man, is the only region of this world that I see where the leader has now taken charge and is making moves. Yahsonn, the man them over there is done export. The man them over there already exporting rice and wheat. The man ain't cultivating no acres, you know. The man cultivating hectares. You know, Burkina Faso is not a coastal country, so shipments are down in the port of Tema in Ghana. And I'm gonna tell you, I myself, I was in Ghana 3 years ago. So I know where that port is. There's so much equipment down at that Tema port for Burkina Faso that it got the Tema port jammed up right now for weeks probably. But the contingent from Burkina Faso has already gone down to Ghana to clear those equipment to get them shipped up to Burkina Faso. The man them over there is making moves. We in the Caribbean need to link up with Africa for real, bro. We need to take a page out of this guy, Ibrahim Traoré. We got to take a page out of this man's book. We're not doing nothing, man. Nike got a motto, just do it. Man, when you set out to do something, you just got to do it. And stop all this talking. Next topic. I understand that the southern side, you know what the southern side of Nevis look like?
Yes.
Untouched lands. There's reports that's coming out of Nevis that there's a particular realtor company in Nevis that's trying to get their hands on those lands over there. And the Nevis public doesn't even know what's going on in their own island. Yo, when the man get their hands on those lands over there on the south side of Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis both. You see how them rich people got the peninsula in St. Kitts? You know, you tell me, man, what's the percentage of local people in St. Kitts own lands and property over there on that peninsula? That south side of Nevis, the locals, them who's in control of those lands over there right now, they man need to stand firm. Because that realtor company, when they man get the whole of those lands over there on that south side of Nevis, Nevis is finished with. They're trying to get those lands over there. I'm understanding that there's some person or persons, foreigners of course, that's trying to come into Nevis and take over that region. Man, St. Kitts and Nevis is rapidly becoming like South Africa under apartheid. You know, we gotta start looking out for ourselves, man. them southern lands over there in Nevis. A man like Banky need to get his hands on those lands over there for agriculture. But guess what? Our leaders now, they don't have no integrity. They're selling out the place, and they're not representing for the people who put them there. That's my little contribution for tonight, man. I wish the rest of them, you know, more upful bringing and, you know, continue this discussion and enjoy the rest of the Black History Month, man. All right? Peace and love.
Yeah, man. Give thanks and praises, King, for your contribution. Yeah,
Irie.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, the land issue, right? And this is part of what we were talking about earlier on. This comes down to what we were saying, Judah, because of the fact, and this is why we're having these discussions, so we could stimulate the discussion, so we could start to get our people to see the need for us to value our lands. Look at the struggle, look at where we are coming from, and recognize why it is so significant for us to not allow our lands to just slip away. And if we had people, and this is why I'm saying, sometimes those at the helm do things that are just for their benefit and their personal benefit and for them and their cronies and their families and so on, and not necessarily look out for the benefit of the nation or the people. Because in cases like what we're talking about here, selling out some of these prime lands that we would have had to fight so hard to get. I mean, even when you talk about the Southeast Peninsula, I could remember the amount of wood Simmons would have gotten to buy, you know, that pay for those lands over there and so on. They say, oh, it's wasteland and all kind of thing and so on, and right? And then we got it, and then we sell it out. So it still shows the mindset of some of those who are at the helm and how we, the masses, and that is why we have to do these things to seek to educate our masses, so that our masses could begin to start to think differently and realize that what these people are doing is literally selling out the patrimony. And so here we're going to have issues. When I say I want a 50 acres to do an agricultural project, they will tell me that there's no lands, but then they will find to buy these lands to sell them out for other reasons, you know? So, brother, I mean, I give thanks for the contribution and the point. I'm sorry that it really came in at the end where we would not necessarily have much time to really explore, you know, and get more into to that discussion. But it fits into what we're talking about here, you know, the fact that we need to appreciate ourselves, as Judah was just talking about there. Appreciate ourselves, learn more about ourselves, and I will let him continue on that trend, because I think that is where he was in terms of making his wrap up before we got that call in. So, Judah, I'll let you make your final statements, and then we would wrap up.
Yes, man. Good thanks, man. You know. Yeah, and you know, can't really see forced progress, right? Can't really allow yourself to be bogged down too much to do system. And then, you know, a lot of things being a control out here. You know, really got community control it. The people who brought us out here, you know, still maintain a lot of control. And we can't give up a continent for island, fighting for island, and lose a continent. You know, we really have think deep into where we are different, you know, where we are dealing with. You know what I mean? Yeah. Knowing ourselves, you know, and trying to, you know what I mean, reconstruct the oneness between we and Africa. And he's saying that the thing is supposed to be a summit between CARICOM and FAO in September.
Mm-hmm.
You know anything about that?
No, but no, you're saying it. I'll definitely follow up and seek to get some information on
See,
it and present on it.
if they hear me, I'm what to something like that. You know, they're supposed to do this. I think there was one already, but it wasn't important. You know? It was virtual. This one's supposed to be important. You know?
Okay.
And all of these things is hopeful things, you know, it's the Caribbean. That is being another alternative, you know. The resources are multi limited. The whole world looking for Africa, you know what I mean? So when we come to these lands out here, we can keep them as middle like colonies of Africa, you know what I mean? Like, but the reconnection with Africa is necessary. And you have to start to educate and you have to start to mind. The mind have to be motivated to see place where we come from, you know, right? Place of our origin. Yeah, and develop that love for ourselves and appreciation for ourselves. And what we bring forward, because we bring forward everything that run the world. Everything that run the world today. If you think alike, take out revenue, tell me revenue.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, we bring forward everything. You know what I mean? So I give thanks for the Iowa, you know. We could have really come and chat about these things yesterday, you know, and
Yes. Right.
hope, you know,
Yes. Okay.
to reach a yeah, to really like inspire and motivate and really like look within ourselves because Africa is the future. Africa is the future. Okay? Yeah,
Rastafari.
with thanks.
Yeah, man.
Thanks,
Well,
Terry.
I give thanks. I give thanks too for obliging at last minute as well, because I really did not necessarily have a lot of time to discuss this with you. But you know, you welcomed the invitation when I did, and I am very happy that you did. And I must say that I am very, very much happy that we would have had this discussion. I think those folks would definitely welcome the change. Our listeners, you know, would welcome having a different, you know, topic, and welcome the fact that we here on Real Entertainment Network would have at least taken some time out to pay tribute and commemorate Alkebulan Stories Month. And so Rastaman, I must tell you that, you know, keep your ears open, because this would not necessarily be the last. We would have other discussions, and I would definitely reach out to you in the not too distant future for, you know, another opportunity to be here on the topics. As I close up, the last comment here, Ball B. Jones says we need to move to a republic state. That's a very interesting topic for us to have, and it's something that I would love to discuss, or maybe on one of our topics session we would discuss that, because I think Jamaica is making a move right now to become a republic. When the Prime Minister Dr. Drew got in, when he made that visit, I think for the coronation, I think it was either the funeral of Queen Elizabeth or the coronation of King Charles. He had an interview, and in his interview, he did say that he is going to be pushing for St. Kitts and Nevis to become a republic in his term, during his term. Since then, I have not heard anything in regards to that discussion. So I am not certain if, as they get closer to the campaign, if that is going to be a part of the campaign for the next election. But I have not heard anything in regards to that. That is something that we need to bring to the table and engage. And, you know, this is thing that we probably have to do to start to sensitize the public on topics such as these. I see we're going to make a point with Judah, and then we do that, and then we're going to wrap up. So, yes.
Even when it comes to the republic, we have to educate people. What is a republic? You know what I mean? How republic can benefit the people? Okay, you know what I mean? the days them gone when you just go and pick up something upon people. You know, people want to improve in life. You know, people don't want to live no bandit. You know, to everything they have to be able to exalt. You know, what I mean, the quality in people like to make them know that they're free and they own themselves. You know, what I mean, because that is the point of life has come to. You know, or else you know progress even as human being. You have to own your own self because you're responsible for yourself. So whatever education must bring out that in people, the responsible self. You understand? Yes, man. I leave.
Well, Rastaman, you know, I'm glad you made that point, and the reality is, it's a topic that we would have to address. We will come back on this platform and address it, but the point that you're making also is the fact that if we're going to make that move, there is a need for education. And the point that I was making is that the Prime Minister said that so long ago, but there has not been any efforts made in terms of the educational sensitization or evoking the conversations. So that's what I meant. That's what I said. Now, I'm hoping that it's not going to try to be like a political stunt to wait until coming on close to the election to try to bring it as one of the agendas, or to say that this is something that I want to do coming on to the campaign trail for the next election. So with that, that leaves us with something that we could discuss as another topic for another DeTopiks session. I really want to thank you as Judah as I say, last minute for stepping in and doing this. I want to thank all of you who are still on the live with us, whether you're listening via YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. We really want to thank you for spending your time with us. We hope that you share the live, share it with your friends and families, so that if they're not listening tonight, they could probably listen to the discussion tomorrow or some other time. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us on Twitch, like and subscribe to us on Facebook, and keep locked for another edition. Until then, Ras Judah I run the Ren team. Enough respect from DeTopiks.